Hey, folks, I'm doing the thing tonight. Welcome to episode, I hope it's 157, because John wrote this and I didn't check my facts. That's SDGC, episode 157 for Thursday, August 8th. If you're not aware, Superform Gamescast meets right here every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we discuss the latest gaming headlines with a wide variety of panel members and guests. We also do a bunch of other stuff as time allows, like a separate show about movies and television, community game streaming, which we still need to do more of, I think. That hasn't happened recently. Mental health support show, and a bi-weekly morning show every Friday. It's like tomorrow. If you've been along for the ride so far, welcome home. And if not, hey, feel free to stick around and maybe throw us a subscription. Every single podcast is archived the next day on our YouTube channel for those who like to watch, and you can find us on all major podcast services for those who like to listen. That's the spiel.
Red, you killed it.
That's the most cheerful I'm going to be tonight until the very end, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This is like a drag of the week. Like everybody that's probably listening or watching is probably aware that this was not a fantastic banner week for the games industry in general. We've got three kind of heavy topics that we want to talk about tonight, and I think like for the first time, they're all intertwined in like some kind of really specific way, which is sort of why we wanted. Like there were actually a bunch of things that happened this week that we could have talked about. Like there's a bunch of loot box stuff, a bunch of other things, but. I think we really wanted to hit on these three things because they kind of have a common thread and a common theme. And yeah, so anyone want to say something nice before we get started? Usually like John greets everybody, but it feels kind of weird like to get like
Does
super
that count?
Super hyped and then suddenly talk about, I don't know, like fucking terrible things.
You know, I still want to know how everybody's doing.
Yeah, how are you, John?
I'm on vacation right now, so that's pretty cool.
Heck.
Yeah, no, I've been on vacation all week. And by vacation, I mean just not going to work because I'm taking a week off. But it's been pretty low key. We spent one night in DC, and my son and I were tooling around the city at like 9:30 at night on an electric scooter and just having a grand old time. And he was yelling "woo" at the top of his lungs because we were going all fast, and it was a really good time. It was a really good time. And aside from that, like as soon as this podcast is done, I think I'm a couple hours away from the end of Fire Emblem. So
wait, seriously? How many hours have you put into that thing?
Like 50.
Oh shit! Hold on. Wait. Talk about without spoiling it.
I'm at like 15.
How do I not spoil?
Can I tell you what chapter I'm on?
Yeah.
You can tell me how close I am to the end.
Yeah.
I'm on chapter 17.
Okay. I think I might be on 18. You might have a little bit more to go.
Okay.
Because I didn't
Usually
feel like,
you break 20 in Fire Emblem.
Yeah,
so.
I think 20 sounds probably 20 and then like a little epilogue or something.
Yeah, I think I get the sense that I'm getting pretty close, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I am too. If you know, that's a weird thing to append if you know what I mean to.
I'm almost beating that game if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah. Well,
the narrative's drawing to a close, if you know what I mean.
Because like there is like a pretty, I don't know what, as I went Edelgard route, and there's a pretty definitive thing that happens. It's like, okay, we are in the end game now. Like here we go, and so yeah.
When are we doing this Fire Emblem thing? Because we gotta talk about. We're not doing it tonight. We gotta talk about Fire Emblem.
We're gonna do it Sunday, right?
Sunday evening, I hope.
Yeah, Sunday evening. I'm game.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Derek, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I had a big old plate. I made a bunch of spaghetti, and it was good. I made homemade Italian meatballs. It was so good. And I've just had a good, quiet night in. I've played video games and cuddled my dogs and eaten food, and that's been my night and my day and everything. So
I was proud of your risotto, by the way, Derek.
I turned out really good. That risotto yesterday turned out really good. I was pretty happy with that. So yeah, I'm doing good.
Good. Justin, how about you? How you doing? I can't see you on my screen, which is sad.
I can't see you either. I'm all right. I've had weird work schedule this week where I've been like off a few days and then had like a couple short days and stuff. So yeah, I'm all right.
All right. And Brandon, what's going on?
Hey, not much.
Doing all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Brandon's like, I am literally playing Final Fantasy 14 at this minute.
Final Fantasy 14 world. Yeah, that's been pretty much what I've been doing for about 2 weeks straight.
All right. Okay. Well, in that case, we're gonna go ahead and jump into this. So we got three topics tonight. They're all tied together. I promise at the very end of this, we're gonna go around and we're all gonna talk about a gaming thing that happened to us this week that made us smile. And you guys should all throw those into the comments too when we get to that point, so we can all just smile together. But we think these are really important to talk about. And I'm going to get the worst one out of the way first. And I want to be really clear about why we're talking about this. So the reason we're talking about the 2 shootings that happened over the weekend. There was a shooting in a Walmart in El Paso, Texas on Saturday, killed 22. And there's a second one outside a bar in Dayton, Ohio, killed 9. One shooter's in custody. The other one was killed by responding officers. But the reason we're talking about this is not because of the nonsense in the news. So there's this whole thing where U.S. President Donald Trump's like, gruesome and grisly video games, suggesting that those things were the reason for the shooting. There's various politicians who are doing that too. It's a waste of time to talk about that, right? Like, we know that that games are just a scapegoat for people who want to keep the focus off of other things that maybe cause mass shootings. Wonder what those could be. So that's not why we're talking about this. The reason we're talking about this is actually, this is my idea, but I saw, and I should actually pull up the tweet thread so I can probably credit people. But there's a tweet thread that I thought was really smart, and it was about these shootings, and it was basically bringing up the fact that playing violent video games does not make you a violent person, doesn't make you shoot people. That's not what that is. However, gaming communities in general have a problem, right? Gaming communities are often, if you go and watch like a YouTube trailer for like a game or something, you scroll down the comments, you're like gonna see like Nazi shit in there and like white supremacist shit in there. Just like, there'll be like normal comments like you'd expect, but it's just gonna be buried in there. And you'll see that, there's like Discord channels and there's all these things that are like, gaming adjacent, right? Like things that are kind of connected to games, not like official, but they're, these sort of groups and communities, and there'll just be like Nazis in them and white supremacists in them and racists in them. And there are just these lines, these threads that you can find where people will go to a gaming community and find like acceptance, and then someone will latch onto them. And there have been communities that are becoming recruiting grounds where people, maybe start just by being part of a group that plays a video game together, and then they gradually end up on 8chan, and then they get, recruited into these hate groups. And this is not like something that we are blaming on games. However, I think like we can't not acknowledge the fact that gaming communities in general have sort of become this really easy target for a recruitment ground for the kinds of people that either actually go out and shoot, people in Walmarts, or they provide kind of a safe haven for them to, I don't know, post a white supremacist manifesto before doing that. So like again, I'm not trying to blame games, but I think, and this is something we're going to come back to on the other 2 topics too, but there's this group of really awful people in the world right now. They're doing really awful things, and they find a really fresh, open recruitment ground in games. And I don't know what we do about that.
I don't think here's the depressing answer, right? Like, I don't think we can do anything about it. I think a lot of this is just shitty people. It's a combination of shitty people being shitty, and in today's online infrastructure, like, people like white supremacists will find any avenue they can for recruitment, right? And gaming is accessible. It's easy to get involved in. And let's face it, like, there are a lot of disaffected youth who are currently playing games. Even though gaming today, as opposed to like 1995, is far more mainstream and accepted than it was back then, there are still a lot of kids who feel like they don't belong, wandering around the gaming world. And if they find a group that they think that appears to be welcoming to them or accepting of them, they will, a lot of these kids will latch onto that. And because people at the end of the day just want to feel accepted. It's depressing. It's just really, I love this hobby, and I think I still, at the end of the day, I think it's good. And but at the end of the day, unfortunately, this hobby attracts a lot of shitty just a lot of shitty fucking people. And Reb, I'm like you, I don't know if we can do anything to stop it, let alone what.
So I have a couple ideas on that. I am actually this is something I've been thinking a lot about this week, and was actually part of the reason why I wasn't sure if I was going to be on tonight. But I decided I wanted to come on and actually kind of talk about this because so it's something that's always, kind of scared me, is like, I was very adjacent to some of these groups when I was in high school and college. I'm not proud of it, but I've worked hard to, change from that. And like, I think it like I was on 4chan a lot. I was on Something Awful a lot in high school. And one thing that, really stood out to me is that sometimes somebody within the community mentioning something, like, so the one that sticks in my mind the most is like when, people were talking about the R word, for mentally handicapped people being used regularly. I used to say that all the time. Uh, I mean, it was pretty common when I was a teenager in the early 2000s for people to say that all the time. I'm not defending it, but it was a common part of our lexicon. And the first time somebody told me not to say it, I thought it was dumb. I laughed it off, but it stuck in my head that somebody didn't want me to say it. And over time, I realized, I'm like, hey, I'm not saying this as much. And then it eventually, you know, has been removed from my vocabulary. And it's stuff like that that has a bigger impact than you might think. It's not like an instant change, and I think we need to get better at self moderating some of these communities. Like if you're in a Discord channel and you see somebody saying some shit, like, maybe just kind of take them inside and be like, hey, this is why that's, might not be cool. And I think sometimes just, reaching out and saying that might have more of an impression than you might think. And I think it can also lead to some really good benefits. I think people can, change without realizing it. And I think that's also part of the reason why some of these groups do scare me, because sometimes that little reach out that I mentioned, can be from the wrong people. And I think and now we're seeing um, a lot of these discussions, like about politics or certain things in games, I think have kind of become a lot of coded dog whistles for some people. And some people really seem to latch onto it. And, some of these disaffected people within some of these groups, see this as some sort of, attack. And I know this because I have been there. I used to think that, sometimes complaints about, problematic things were, saying I was bad, saying the thing I like is bad. And when that's how like I've made most of my friends throughout most of my life through gaming, or movies or something like that. And seeing people criticize those things, sometimes made me feel like an outsider with, people I wanted to get along with. And I think so now we have this. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but now I think like, I think we all can be vigilant within our own smaller communities, but I do think there are people that have realized this earlier than we have. Like Steve Bannon has actually outright said that he thinks that, gaming communities are great for recruiting people for his sort of agenda, because of some of these people. So I think we can do a lot within our own communities to kind of help people away from that sort of thing. But I think part of the reason these communities have become so dangerous is because of that sense of belonging. Those, little reach out moments have been, essentially weaponized.
Yeah. If I may.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, yeah. I went on for a while.
No, I think everything you spoke is from the heart, and you've absolutely got to get that out. And nothing you said was like doubling over extraneous. So don't apologize. I think that part of the problem, to be honest with you, and I say this as somebody who takes a lot of the burden on in this regard, is we have to acknowledge that I do think it's true that most people can be reasoned with and most people can be educated. Now, the time you talk to somebody may not be the time they get educated. But like you said, Justin, the first time you got confronted about your use of the R word, you took it defensively. But over time, that stuck with you, that interaction, probably further interactions, and that woke you up. So the person who told you that you shouldn't say that word might have come away from that conversation feeling like, why did I bother? But in the end, they planted the seed that helped get you. And I can't point the finger here. I mean,
exactly. And
I was a channer. I was there in my teenage
me too.
years.
Me too.
So,
and also just to throw that out, I actually now work with special needs kids on a daily basis, and I love working with them.
yeah.
And I'm really glad I learned that lesson when I did before I started doing doing some of this in my career. So
I think you can have those conversations, and even if a conversation is fruitless, you can plant the seed that blooms into understanding later. But I don't think that works over the internet. You are never, ever, ever going to convince somebody on Twitter to change their mind and to wake up and stop being such an asshole. It's not going to happen. It's not. I mean, I don't think it can never, ever happen, but I think that there's such a disconnect with people on the internet, on gaming forums and on social media, versus you have those same conversations in person. I've built up kind of a reputation over the last couple of years of being that guy. When we had somebody at my work who started transitioning, it was the first trans coworker and probably the first trans person most of the people at my place of business have ever interacted with. I'm somebody with a trans sister. I'm somebody with trans friends. I was somebody out there talking to everybody about, like, here's the stuff you need to know. When I hear somebody say something that's not appropriate, I go, yo, this is not cool, and this is why. And some people don't like that, and some people appreciate the information, but even most of the people who don't like that I've called them out eventually come around. But these are also the same people where if that exact same interaction had happened on, say, Facebook, it would have been completely different. People are such different beings when they have this kind of, I mean, I say over the internet, but even like this, like a video call, there's something about the power of voice, something about the power of inflection, of body language. This is communication, and words on the internet behind an anime profile picture mean nothing. So I feel like, and everyone's free to disagree, we've got to learn to disengage from these kind of people on the internet, that we're never gonna fix them, never gonna correct them, and it's just a drain on our emotional labor to do so, and save what emotional labor we have for having those conversations in person, if you can do that. Because obviously you can't put yourself into a mental hole, if you see yourself as like, I've got to go out and have these conversations. But if you're killing yourself over it, like, leave that to people. Like, I have a lot of energy to do this. I probably have a much easier time than, say, Justin does, butting heads with people at work where I make my money over these kinds of subjects, So don't put yourself so far out there that you drain yourself and it becomes a negative impact on your own life, because that you've got to take care of yourself first and foremost.
I can confirm, first of all, that yelling at people on Twitter is not going to change their mind. I am
us
probably
too.
I am probably living proof of that, and which is why I am cutting myself off from that. But also, this is even more poignant for me because I have an 11-year-old son who is big into gaming, big into online gaming, and he's starting to discover these YouTube channels. He's starting to discover forums. And I have gotten to the point now where I am very actively curating which channels he is and is not listening to. We have a rule, for example, like he brought up PewDiePie one day, and I was like, okay, so just so we're clear, there is no PewDiePie. You do not watch PewDiePie. He goes, okay, no problem. And I checked his view history, and he has not watched it, which is good. At the same time, like I can't police him all the time. I'm not there 24/7, and there is that worry in the back of my head, like looking at what's not just these forums, but looking what's happening with the Ooblets devs. Like I like, it's, as a parent, it is extremely difficult not to worry that he is going to come across people who talk like this online and think that that's something that's okay. It's just being edgy. It's just being an edgelord. It worries me.
I think, and this is where I kind of disagree. I don't think I actually disagree with Derek. I think Derek is going to agree with this. I absolutely agree that you can't fight with people on Twitter. You can't fight with the people who get into your mentions. You just got to block them. And I think it's twofold, right? So like part of fighting back is you can't get rid of these people. You can't change their minds. You can keep them out of your spaces. So you can block them on your own account if you are in a position of power, if you are someone who is a moderator of some kind of channel, if you are a company with the power controlling some kind of social platform, you should use that power responsibly. This podcast is not being watched by anyone who's in charge of a massive social platform, probably. But, again, it's those people's responsibility to handle those things. But on a personal level, I do think that you can change minds in the way that Justin's mind was changed, in the way that my mind was changed, because I grew up in the same era that Justin did, and I believed Eric as well. And I did have a lot of those. I was not like a 4chan person, but I had some really shitty beliefs. And the thing that changed me actually was going on the internet, not because a bunch of people argued with me, but because I joined these big communities, and these big communities were filled with people who like the same things as me, video games, online stuff. But they were also filled with people who were progressive and had views about being kind to other people. And they talked about those things openly. Like I didn't know that you could be anything other than straight for the majority of my life. And just hearing other people share, I thought that anything other than that was bad and horrible and evil. And then I met other people who just talked about it like normal human beings, and talked about their experiences, and talked about their experiences being hurt by people who had the same views as me. And over time, hearing those kinds of experiences spoken about, it did change my mind, and it opened me up to other possibilities. And the more that happened, the more I realized that other people's worldviews could be different from my own and could be good. The more I listened to them, and the more, you still have to have scrutiny, right? And people still should have scrutiny. But I think, and I agree that people who, would be put in danger by this sort of thing, or people who don't feel comfortable sharing those kinds of stories, or people who just don't feel comfortable talking about these things, they shouldn't. You should protect yourself first. Keep yourself safe first. But if you have the privilege, if you have the strength, if you have the ability to talk about your experiences, or to just kind of, when you see somebody kind of engaging in a way that doesn't seem great, but they're, maybe they're not in your Twitter mentions to argue with you, but they kind of say something that's not great. Those are opportunities to spread that positivity and be like, hey, this isn't great. And maybe there's a chance of planting seeds in those kinds of cases, right? It's not going to solve the problem. It's not going to save the world. It's going to, sorry, this is the last thing. I had this conversation with my editor when I first got hired over at Games Industry. We were talking about, why we wanted to, why we were in the industry, because the industry just had, fucking bad news all the time. It's just really freaking depressing. And we were like, we are not going to change we write about video games for a living. We're not going to change the world. We can, get our brooms and dustpans and mops and clean up our tiny, tiny little corner of it as best we can. And, keep yelling and keep doing what we can to just fix our little corner, and hope that the people who see that spread it, and just do our best. We can't stop trying.
I want to see if Derek has, or not Derek. I want to see if Brandon has a take on this.
Yeah.
Loop him in.
I mean, on this topic, not really a lot.
All right.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
These are all interconnected, and so I think we're going to go ahead and move on. But I'm sure this is going to just continue, because it is the theme of the night is there's a group of shitty people in the world, and they're doing bad shit that keeps touching our communities. What do we do about it? So the second thing was actually something that I know affected me, affected a couple of us personally, affected some of our listeners personally. The ESA,
oh god,
our good friends, the Entertainment Software Administration, apparently had left some Google spreadsheets full of the full names, addresses, phone numbers, just a bunch of personal information of everybody who was registered as media for E3 2019, just on their website, just up there where anyone can get at it. And some real bad people got a hold of that, started spreading it around, started doing shitty things with it, probably going to keep on doing shitty things with it for, years to come. Years to come. It's no good at all. Funny, same shitty people we've been talking about this whole episode so far, same people. And then apparently also data from the years 2004, 2006, and 2018 has been discovered as also having been available just for anybody to sort of, get it and share it around. We don't know exactly how much was grabbed before it was all taken down, but yeah, enough. And it's not great. I mean, there's like so many different things. We don't need to beat the drum the whole night on the shitty corners of the internet that are going to abuse this. We can also talk, if you would like, about how ridiculous the ESA is and how completely ineffectual their statement is.
Well, I was going to mention the statement. It's like they didn't even apologize. They just
what did they say? I don't remember what they said.
They just said, "Oopsie,
sorry,
my bad. We're good, right?"
I guess we really fucked up, huh, guys? Like, shit.
Oh yeah, there's no apology in here.
There's no apology. There's no apology. They didn't actually apologize in their statement. All they did was say so. All they did was say so this happened, right? This is a thing that occurred.
Hey, Gamergate has your fucking address. Have a real one, folks.
We'll do our best not to do it again.
Yeah, I made this joke on Twitter. I'm sorry to just recap it out loud on a podcast, but I really, really am just waiting for like tomorrow or next week, like on Monday, the headline to be, if you've ever been to E3 in your entire life, then your information is just unfortunate. Now.
At this point, Rev, I don't think that's like a completely unrealistic thing to think.
Yeah,
we've hit 4 years. Do we have bets on 5?
So this is like really bad, right? Like we know why this is bad, and I think this kind of does go back to our earlier discussion. I think so. This is one of the really, really stupid things about it. The ESA is basically a representative foundation of for video games. It's not a governing body. It doesn't have like any government power, but it's got a bunch of members like Nintendo, Xbox, Sony, whatever. All those people are members of it. They get together, they make decisions that basically represent all of video games. And the people who are in charge of the ESA, the people who are representative of it, seem to just be entirely unaware of like Gamergate and the issues surrounding that, and the fact that more so than any other collective lobbying group. That's a good way to phrase it. Sorry, I wasn't getting words right. But they just seem like woefully unaware of the fact that games media is harassed and doxxed and sent death threats and all these sorts of things, just far and away above pretty much any other specific type of media I can think of. Maybe like political journalists might be worse. I don't know.
I think games journalists have it worse.
So
I've seen some of the shit that gets sent their way. It's vile.
Yeah. So many of you may know, my actual regular job is in standard local news. And I was at work as this stuff was going down. And I was actually out talking to the people on the social news desk, the people overnight, the producers and the journalists, by which I mean the one sad person who's there overnight, keeping an eye on AP Wire at what's coming in so they can get stuff ready for the morning crew before we get the morning show on the air. And I'm talking to them about what's going on. And it's funny because I start talking to them several hours after it becomes public. Not after we first start talking about it in DMs, but after it first becomes like a real public story. And it's interesting trying to explain to journalists, right, who work in local news, who have been harassed, how much worse it is in the world of games journalism. They did not fathom how, like, they wouldn't want that same stuff happening to them, but they don't understand, like, if you work at W blah blah blah, that there really isn't much of a group sitting on the internet waiting for the chance to tear you apart.
Right, yeah.
There was actually, when this happened, Derek, like the night this happened, almost everybody on that list got a text message from a well-known Gamergate supporting so-called journalist whose name I won't mention. Is saying, hey, just so you know, I'm being, just so you know, all your information's out there. I just wanted to warn you. And this guy is. It
was meant to be intimidating. It was not a friendly.
100%.
Yeah. And I'm like, this guy isn't. He's not trying to warn anybody. He's trying to intimidate.
He's trying to warn people, but
not only that, but he's also, these people want to know if there's anybody at these numbers.
Yeah.
They want a response because
Absolutely.
if there's somebody on the other end, okay, well now it's open season.
Yeah.
This was such a failure in terms of how this was handled on so many levels. The ESA apparently has known about this data being so publicly available for quite a long time. As we found out, the 2018 data was reported to them quite some time ago, correct?
Yeah, apparently.
And they did nothing about it
reached out to
until
the ESA.
just now. You know,
When
the Gamergate adjacent writer and YouTuber, I refuse to call them a journalist, who broke the story first, did not wait for the ESA to take the documents down, and knowing that they have an audience that would love for that data, basically gave them a roadmap on exactly how to get it before the ESA took it down.
I do want to make sure. Hold on, I do want to make sure this is accurate. My understanding, and this could be wrong, like please correct me if this is wrong. I thought they did wait for the ESA to take it down, but it was still available on Web Archive.
My understanding is they did not wait for a response from the ESA. They got no response from the ESA, so they published the video.
That's my response. That's my understanding.
Okay, that may be right. I don't.
Yeah, because this was happening overnight.
However, it doesn't really matter because it was still available on Web Archive, and fucking journalists, maybe are like aware that thing exists.
Yeah, and so that was incompetent. I'm kind of frustrated because when this stuff was being publicly spoken about by the journalists affected on Twitter, right? Like not behind closed DMs where we were talking about, hey, this is a thing, don't talk about it, but like, hey, this is a thing, it's already on these doxing websites and we need to talk about it. There were still major gaming websites and message boards that were deleting the topics and refusing to talk about it. I created the thread that's currently up on Reset Era. There are people in that thread who found out that they were doxed because of that thread. You know, not everybody's on Twitter, guys. Like,
you know what? Here's what you do.
It is really tricky though, and I acknowledge it. Like, we've had a fucking time all week trying to figure out like how to responsibly report this because we broke the 2004-2006 stuff, and it was this weird line where it had been taken off the E3 website. You could still find it via certain methods on Web Archive, and then there was like confusion as to whether we should report it or not. And it was really tricky. And like, again, like the idea being that even if, you know, people are talking about it on Twitter, like we don't want to spread it further. It's just, it's tough. And I see where you're coming from, but I also think that there's not a fucking like list of rules for how to handle this. And I think we've all had a lot of trouble figuring it out.
But by the way, I was gonna say it's not like there was a list where you could contact everybody that was affected, but I guess there was. In this case.
But that's fucking scary. That's
God, yeah. But like that's the thing. It's like you don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I would handle it if I was a moderator of one of those communities.
I mean, I spent the whole evening just like calling different outlets and DMing friends at different outlets that I knew to make sure that the outlets could tell their people in a responsible way. But that's like the best that I could do. I don't know every freelancer in the world.
Yeah.
I want to make 2 points about this. One, I looked at some of the postings from this individual regarding this, this leak. One, what a responsible, I'm with Derek. I won't call her a journalist. What a responsible, but if you want to be a journalist, if you want to pretend to be a journalist, what a responsible journalist would do is contact individuals and let them know that their data is out there. Make sure that they have taken proper precautions to protect themselves, to secure their phone numbers, to secure themselves. Before posting a story like that, don't just kick it out there on social media without anybody knowing about it.
There was no ethical practice in how they reported.
Yep. I don't call myself a journalist.
Right? Here's the other thing. Like, I'm just trying to help people. If you follow every comment on this thing with, and I looked, every comment on this story with, hey, I'm the one who broke it. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Here's my website. I'm sorry. You're not doing it for fucking altruistic reasons, okay? You're not trying to be an ally. You're not trying to help.
Jesus fucking Christ.
You're trying to fucking self-promote. That's what this is about. If
I may quote the magnificent Stephen King, go take a flying fuck at a rolling donut, because I don't buy that in a hot second.
One just little funny note about this story, just while we're in the middle of it. I was speaking to a friend of the show who sent me, a screen cap showing, their name on the list. And right above it was somebody that was 5 steps ahead of everybody else because they put in their address at 420 fucking Lane. Like, it was definitely somebody who just put in a fake address, which I highly recommend everyone does for now on if you have to deal with this. What?
Oh no.
I don't think I can talk about this. Sorry. Holy
Damn
shit.
it!
What? What just happened?
Let me find out if I can.
Uh-oh.
So-
Something happened.
Wait.
It's fine. Please keep going.
Is this a good thing or
It's
a bad
not.
thing?
It's not good, but I don't think anyone's dead. I hope
what?
That's
no one's
not
dead.
reassuring.
That's
That made
not
it worse.
reassuring.
Okay, it's not good. It's kind of wild.
Okay. I can work with that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to react that dramatically to how ridiculous this was.
No,
Sorry.
no. Now I'm both curious and a little concerned.
I mean, I'm always curious, but
So
I'm also a fat
while
guy
Reb
eating
is-
pie on a
while-
podcast, so
While Reb is looking at this, I just want to ask, why would the ESA need your home address to begin with?
PR probably wants it to mail you shit.
I mean, John, we had to submit our driver's license for PAX, didn't
That's
we?
fucking why. Yeah, that's true.
Which is
Like,
insane. Can you imagine if our driver's license got leaked?
No, I don't
I
want
mean,
to.
the 2018 data got shared, and you had to do driver's license stuff then. So maybe.
Well, like, here's my other question: is honest to God, like a serious question, and I don't think it's hyperbole to talk about this, but what happens to E3 next year? Like, I mean, the E3 is already in bad shape. Like, it's not anywhere near as relevant as it used to be in years past. And while I'm not going to sit here and say that this is the nail in the coffin of E3, I know that because I mean we've had media passes to E3 before, and I was planning on going next year, and I'm not fucking sure that I at all intend to anymore because of this. Because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And I don't want my fucking info out there like this. And
I mean,
how do we ever trust the ESA? How do we ever trust them not to do this again?
I don't.
when somebody as big and visible as Cory Barlog is willing to publicly say you shouldn't, and I don't see how anybody can trust ESA ever again with their information,
Wow.
that's a sign. I mean,
Yeah.
that's somebody working one of the most visible people at one of the 3 big publishers. I mean, or one of the big 3. There's many big publishers, but you know what I mean. If somebody as big as Cory Barlog is willing to say you can't trust the NSA or the ESA, you can't trust the NSA either, but you can't trust the ESA, and I don't see why you ever would anymore. And they're willing to say that without fear of any backlash from higher up the chain. That's a sign.
Yeah. I think this is the really sucky thing about this, right? Is like hopefully media companies will go to bat for their journalists. Hopefully they will step up to the ESA and say, okay, if you don't fix your shit, then we're not going to send anybody to cover your show. And hopefully that'll help move the needle. But maybe they don't. I don't know. I'm not an executive at a media company. I have no idea what is getting done at that level. I think regardless, the people this is going to hurt the most are people who are freelancers and people who are marginalized creators. And those two very often, not all the time, but they very, very often go hand in hand. And I think the big problem is, one, those are the people whose address is not 420 Weed City, California. Their address is like their real address, right? Like they don't have a company address they can put in there somewhere. They're trying to get into the industry, so they're giving their real info because they want, on the off chance a press person wants to talk to them, they want that real info to be in there. So the real info is more likely to be in there. They're also, usually, not all the time, but again, usually people who are just getting started. They're people who are trying to make their way into the industry. And so they're looking at this. They're probably aware of Gamergate. They're aware of what's going on. They're maybe getting these harassing texts. And they're gonna be the people who are gonna be writing pieces about, they're gonna be writing more pieces about issues surrounding diversity and inclusion and, politics and, really good criticism. And those are the kinds of things that Gamergate and those people latch onto. And so the next time they want to write about something like that, they're going to hesitate just like a little bit longer because they're going to think, fuck, my address is out there, my phone number's out there. And I already have this conversation. I'm sure, other people who are in this industry and who write on the internet have this conversation all the time. They get ready to write a piece that tackles these issues. And maybe you're really proud of it. Maybe you're looking at your final draft and you're like, man, this is going up tomorrow. I'm so happy I wrote this. And at various points in the process, you have also thought, God, what if this is finally the piece that blows up on Kotaku in Action? What if this is finally the piece that gets me doxxed? What if I get death threats from this? And you just have this conversation every single time. And now I think that the people who are on that list, especially the people who are more marginalized and the people who are freelancers, are going to think about that a little bit longer and harder, and they may be less likely to publish those pieces. And that's a fucking loss. That is such a huge loss for this industry.
Well, and like, the other thing is, Reb, is that like journalists already get shit on Twitter when they, for example, review a game and some Gamergate shithead doesn't fucking like the review, doesn't agree with it, or let's say fucking Nickel Boy doesn't like it, or something, some shit like that, and they get harassed on Twitter. But now it's going to be so much worse because phone numbers are out in the wild, and people can say, oh, this is all publicly available information, but we don't really have the fucking yellow pages anymore. And cell phone numbers are a much harder thing to get a hold of. They're scarier because they're with us at all times. And we are going to very soon migrate from getting harassment on Twitter for a review that, for example, somebody doesn't agree with, and it's going to quickly turn into, well, now I'm getting fucking threatening phone calls and text messages at 3 a.m. because I didn't care for Metal Gear Solid 6. I don't know why I use that as an example, but whatever. But yeah, it's and the ramifications of this are going to be felt for years. And the real shitty thing is that the ESA is supposed to be the body that is here to advocate for the gaming industry. It's supposed to be the group that is representing the gaming industry and taking care of everybody's interests and being out there on the front lines. And we can't even trust that group to be and this is basic operational. This is basic OPSEC, right? This is basic InfoSec. It's basic as fuck. It's nothing complicated. And these are the people we're supposed to trust. It's not just dangerous. It's fucking disappointing.
There is kind of like a contingent of people I've seen on Twitter, a lot of people who are talking about how this is like the final nail in the coffin for E3. I don't think that's true. I do think that E3 is already kind of sitting at a tipping point, not necessarily a tipping point towards irrelevance, but a tipping point towards major like change, like bigger than just, more than just letting consumers in, like just becoming a very different kind of show. And I think this is like a pretty big thing on that scale that is going to continue pushing it in a different direction. I know it's been mentioned that Reed might buy it. Again, disclaimer, I know games industry is owned by Reed. I don't know a damn thing about that. But I wouldn't be surprised just on the basis of, what people say on the internet, I guess. But either way, like, I feel like just in general, this does kind of push it towards more of a consumer show, right? Because if press trusts it less, fewer press are going to show up. If PR and companies know that fewer press is going to show up, they're going to tailor things maybe just a little bit less towards press. Maybe they won't get rid of their press stuff fully, but they'll tailor it a little bit less. And it'll keep happening. And there'll be like a cycle because people are already kind of deciding that it's not worth it to send as many people to E3. Maybe it's not worth it to send people at all. I think it's going to keep going in that direction. And eventually it's going to become just mostly a consumer show. And the ESA, so far, since they've added consumers to E3, they have not done a good job of putting on a solid consumer show. PAX is way better. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if this is like a nail in the coffin. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think that it was a meaningful shift. The ESA's had a pretty full plate this week, what with loot box nonsense that we're not talking about tonight. but I don't think we're going to see. I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens next.
I do kind of foresee a scenario where more and more of like the big publishers move to like an off-site thing near E3 that isn't technically E3. Like I know Microsoft does that, EA does it. I was talking with somebody that was impacted by, this leak, and they said they're kind of hoping that's how it goes. Actually, like it'll be I don't know. I think losing press trust is a really, really big blow for something that was a trade show in the past. And I know, when they introduced fans to be able to go to E3, I remember there's a lot of press that were complaining. It's like, this is really, making it hard to do our jobs. And then this adds a whole nother layer to that. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Well, hold on. Reb can actually speak to something.
Yeah, I can. Sorry. I
was done.
I have a connection at a Riot Games who has just sent me a photo. A car just crashed into their building.
What?
Is
Everyone's
everyone
fine.
okay?
From what I can tell, everyone's fine. They said no one was hurt. I don't know. I don't think they're actually there, so they can't prove that. But yeah, a car just crashed into Riot Games. That's literally it. Like, I just got this photo, and they're like, a car crashed into Riot. I'm like,
I see what you mean.
Okay.
It's wild, but it's not really related to anything. At least
no, it's not. Like, it's not some juicy piece of gaming gossip.
Yeah.
It'll probably be
until we find out that it was
tomorrow.
an intentional attack on the studio, because that's just where we
No.
fucking are as a country.
Yeah, no, again, they're not there personally. They don't know what's going on, but they have. Anyway, that was all it was. Sorry to get everybody.
I mean,
hyped up about
honestly,
that.
like these days with everything going on, I hear stuff like that, and I just assume somebody is targeting them.
No, I think it was just a weird bad driving accident.
I mean, hell, Twitch had to abandon their building today.
They did.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, there was.
It was
a
yesterday. It was
incredible
yesterday.
threat called in.
Yeah.
Well, I
I
didn't
think
hear about
it
that.
ended up being nothing, but like how the fuck can you be too careful these days?
You can't.
It's
You
like
can't. And that's the thing.
it's like, no, this is a really good transition. Actually, this is a perfect transition.
Yeah, this is a really good
because-
transition.
Because
Well, hold on.
shit,
Brandon, did you have anything? Because I feel bad. I want to get Brandon.
No, keep going.
Okay,
Brandon,
Brandon's
you've
just
got a lot
happily
to
playing
say
Final
about-
Fantasy 14.
I think Brandon's got a lot to say on our next topic, though.
Okay,
Yeah, probably.
Reb, please. I'm sorry.
this shit is what I'm talking about. So what we just said is we've got people who are doing their jobs at Twitch, just doing their normal jobs, and they can't get work done for a whole day correctly because some jackknob on the internet comes in and says something, and we have to take it seriously. And that is very similar in some ways to what happened late last week, early this week, with some folks at a great little studio called Glumberland. We're making a game called Ooblets. They are headed over to the Epic Games Store for some timed exclusivity. They wrote a blog post about it. I'm not even gonna fucking play on this. There are people who are like trying to argue, actually in good faith, that this was a shitty blog post. Guys, it was not a shitty blog post. It was tongue-in-cheek. It was snarky. It was very much, I've been following the game for 2 years. It was very much in the tone of the stuff that they've done before. It was very personal in some ways too. And it was great. And it was all about how they're going over to the Epic Games Store, and it's just a free game launcher. You just download it and you have it. And they're doing this because Epic has given them an exclusivity deal that would essentially pay the amount of sales that they needed or like expected. I don't remember what the exact phrasing was. But basically they don't have to go back and move in with their parents. Their game, no matter what, even if it flops, they're going to make money. They're great. And that's such good news. That's fantastic news. But some people have criticisms about the Epic Games Store, which is fine.
A lot of people.
You can criticize. There are things to criticize about the Epic Games Store. There's things to criticize. I criticize Steam on a regular basis. The Nintendo eShop fucking sucks. Like you can complain about all these things. However, there is again this shitty contingent of people that the minute you whisper in the tiniest voice, Epic Games Store,
Or
they
just
fucking
EGS
show
in
up.
general.
They just pile on and they just have a shit fit about it. And what happened was, I mean, you guys all know, you guys are all on the internet, but it happened anyway. So they put out this blog post about why they're going to the Epic Games Store, and people just had a fucking riot. They harassed these people. They flooded their chat, had like 1,000 people. Their Discord had like 1,000 people in
The
it.
worst of any game that's announced itself on the Epic Games Store by far.
Really? And yeah, so their Discord chat had like 1,000 people in it. Thousands and thousands of game piling in to scream at them. They doctored screenshots to make it look like the dude who was developing the game had said a bunch of anti-Semitic things. They sent them so much sexist and racist and all kinds of harassment. It's a disaster. It's so bad. And this is a studio that is like 2 people who were writing a blog post for their audience very specifically about why they were not going to have to move in with their parents because they were making money on a game that they worked really hard on. Fuck people. My God.
And it's 2 people. Like, I love how this post made the point of, like, this is not a professional PR and marketing firm for a major developer at EA or Activision. This is 2 motherfuckers working on a game as a passion project, doing everything they can to make a living out of this, who just happen to get the deal of a lifetime. And because of that, they've got death threats and insults and people faking screenshots and video of them. All because of a fucking game. I made this comment. If you are this emotional about Epic Game Store discourse, I'm not saying if you have concerns about Epic Game Store. Epic Game Store is not a great launcher. It's missing a lot of features, yada, yada, yada. I shouldn't have to preface my statement with that.
No.
I shouldn't have to go, okay, no, there's something like, that's like me having to go, okay, now when I talk about men, of course I don't mean all men. Like, fucking obviously. But if you are that concerned and that emotional about Epic Game Store discourse, you are really barely any better than Gamergate itself, if that.
So I actually took a look. I've been on vacation for, the better part of the week. So I wasn't part of all the discourse surrounding, like, specifically what was happening to the developers of Ooblet, right, over this whole Epic Game Store thing. So I took a look at it the other day, and I looked at some of the comments that are being sent to them. Most of them I cannot read aloud on this podcast. Here's one that I will, because I want everybody who hasn't seen this or heard this to know just how bad it really is, and just
I like when they had their second blog, after all this erupted, I thought I knew what kind of comments to expect because I had seen, I've seen so much shit. These were so much more vile than I expected.
I've never seen. So here's one, right? They quoted something. They quoted a part of the Medium article that the developers wrote. They said, "I've been crying nonstop for the last 2 days and feeling like the world has collapsed around me." This person commented, "Oh, really? How about you kill yourself instead? It would be funny if you and the other shitlord got terminally ill and saw each other slowly fading away." It's a fucking video game.
It's a fucking
video game that
none of
dude...
these people ever had any intention of fucking. Yeah. None of these people. Yeah, maybe in their community of like.
What I saw.
Yeah, let Brandon go.
Fucking okay.
Brandon.
I typed the day that it got announced, or no, it was like what, 2 or 3 days after it got announced. After people had a little bit to talk about it, I was like, okay, well, what is Ooblets? I personally haven't heard of it until it got announced, which is fine. Like it got announced in the past, but I decided to look at.
It's been like at the ID at Xbox showcase a couple times. It's super cute. It's great.
Yeah, it does look cool. And so I'm like, okay, what would Reese think about it before it got announced? So I type in Ooblets in the search thing. There was one thread from June of 2018 about the trailer it got at E3, and it was a thread with 20 posts.
How many were in the EGS thread at that point? How many posts?
2,700.
It's not about the game. Look at the side note. People love. Yeah, I wrote an article a couple weeks ago that was entirely about Steam. Had nothing to do. I think I mentioned the Epic Game Store once, and that sentence was something like, "People have suggested the Epic Game Store is an alternative. However, it can't do X." And that was it. It was just to point out as to why that was not an alternative for people who had a problem with Steam. That thread got posted on Era, and like the first page was just a nonstop stream of Epic Game Store comments. It wasn't what the article was about.
Yeah, that's all they want to talk about. Nothing
amazing.
Except, ramming their fucking Epic Game Store talking points.
And also the the talk about Epic Game Store as a launcher is also really top. And this is kind of tangential to what we're talking about, but it's one specific thread I have seen in some of these discussions that really bothers me. And I think it kind of loops back to some of the things we were saying at the beginning of the show. There's a lot of weird fear-mongering about the Chinese.
Oh God, yeah, the whole thing's super racist.
That is in it, and it's and this is something I've seen that is coming up in a lot of games discourse lately. I've seen YouTubers talking about it with cheating, and multiplayer games, like it's a cultural thing. But people did some analysis of the Epic Games launcher and decided it was Chinese spyware because Tencent is a partial stake owner in Epic, and like the things that they decided were spyware was just like basic any program on your computer does the same thing. Like that stuff is really troubling for me because it's really starting to catch on, and people that should know better are starting to latch onto it. And I'm getting really nervous about that. Like, I mean, obviously the rest of the discourse is fucking awful, but like I'm really worried about this part as well. I mean, that's just a comment. I don't really have anything.
I think it's been so strange to see Reset Era, who's been so
Yeah.
anti-Gamergate in the past, latch on to this entire anti-Epic Game Store in such a huge way, and not see that they're getting caught. Like, even if obviously most of them are not coming from it from the racist intentions. They're just, but it's the same thing about the ethics in journalism, right? Like Gamergate. Some people, the few minority, came into it just about that, but the majority of it, and what those people either didn't care about or just didn't see, was that it was about something much worse and something much bigger. And that's what this Epic Game Store thing is. Like, it's not the people who legitimately just care about the store got swept up into this crazy big ball of hate that like is just running away. Like,
and it
just
fucking
taking
sucks.
everything with it.
Yeah, because like I can't write an article about the Epic Game Store now. Like I cannot write an article saying here are some issues with the Epic Game Store that are real and we should criticize. I just can't, because inevitably that is going to be a dog whistle for the shittiest corners of the internet. It just
And what's
is.
ironic, Reb? What's ironic is that all these shitlords are the same people who scream about my free speech. What about my free speech? I'm pro free speech. If you're one of these motherfuckers who is doing this, not just to the Ooblets devs, well, right now I'm speaking specifically about the Ooblets devs because it's the most recent example that I've seen, and it's probably the most fucking hideous example I've seen. If you're doing this, you know what? You need your fucking ass beat. That's what you need. You're fucked up. This it's not human. It's not human to do this. And everybody doing this, every single last motherfucker doing this, is the kind of person who doesn't have the fucking courage to say this shit to somebody's face. Not a single one of these people would actually look either of the devs in the eye and say this to their face because they're fucking.
Oh God, no! Yeah, of course not. Absolutely.
They're
Like
fucking
it's just
cowards, and it's easy to fucking hide behind these online personas and talk shit like this, spew the fucking horrible shit that people do. Like, don't ever let me fucking hear you say this shit in person. Don't ever let me fucking hear it.
And also some of these people that there was a couple snarky jokes in that blog post, and they're just like, they're anti-gamer. They're making a video game. Like, laugh at yourself. Like,
they're insulting their potential consumers.
Yeah, that was
it's like
potential consumer.
Oh my God! Like, it's like there's this.
I might buy your game, but I probably
there's
won't.
this
I've
whole
never heard
level
of it,
of self-important, self-flating.
There's a 120-year-old Tibetan man with no computer in the Himalayas who's a potential fucking consumer because he could spend $20 on the Epic Games Store. It's a meaningless fucking term.
Yeah, it's like it's just these people have
It's
latched
funny to
on to the term
think about
like
it's something to be proud of or something to like
Yeah.
define yourself as.
we talk about like how our parents treat people in big box stores badly, but like this whole I'm a consumer thing is the exact same like it's so frustrating, and like people have latched. I mean this loops back to what we were saying earlier. Like there's these communities that have made people feel important and cared for, and like the people that just want things on Steam and have issues with the Epic Game Store have gotten caught up in this huge shitstorm where everybody thinks they're bigger than they are, that they they know what's best for the industry, they know what's best for the developer, and it's all bullshit. Like Oh, I'm sorry. Like we have actually avoided talking about Epic Game Store stuff. It's such a shit show. But like, I think all of our thoughts
It's
on
reached the
pretty
point.
clear.
Yeah,
This
like
was-
what?
this
It's
was
a
the last
storefront. There's stuff that's wrong with it. There's stuff that's wrong with every storefront. Like, it's not any fucking better. It's better in some ways than some of the other storefronts, and it's worse than. That's not the point. This is not
That's not the
about
point.
the.
It's not about the
the
store.
Epic Game Store.
Yeah, it's not about the store. It doesn't
Yeah.
fucking matter. Like,
And God, it just fucking sucks too, because for every, sorry, I've got like all this cat hair in my face now because she keeps ramming her head into me. it's every fucking comment on these pieces, and it's a lot. I don't like using the term slippery slope. I don't, because it's almost always used in really bad faith. But I think it is a legitimate slippery slope from, I don't condone harassment, but this blog post was anti-consumer and they should have expected that people would get mad.
Everything before the but doesn't
should-
matter.
Right. It's getting you from there to, well, they don't deserve the death threats, but they deserve the harassment that they, and just going down the line, because eventually, yeah, I'm not saying that the people who at the top of that who are saying I don't condone harassment but are the same people that go and fucking shoot up Walmarts. But you're gradually slipping into that mentality. Like, the longer you engage with these communities who are just constantly arguing in bad faith and doing like nothing but trying to ruin people's lives over stupid shit. Eventually you end up on 8chan, which is where a lot of this shit comes from, and you end up watching someone post a white supremacist manifesto before they go shoot up a Walmart. Like this, it's the same fucking community that's at the core of both of these things. And there are people on the fringes of those communities who are not part of those communities. They would tell you, no, I don't condone any of that shit. That shit's terrible. I wouldn't do that. But they're on the very fringes, and even if they're not actually a part of the worst of those communities, they're providing a safe space for the people at the core of them to continue doing these horrible things, to continue doxing and harassing developers and journalists, to continue harassing and sending death threats to people who are just trying to make a fucking video game, and to people who have racist and sexist and other bigoted views and who think that the world would be better off without people who don't look or act like them. And that's fucked up. Like, we gotta clear out these safe spaces, or we gotta clear out these safe spaces for these shitty people. We can't let them have these places. And there's not anything I can do about that. I can't delete 8chan off the internet. But we gotta kick these people out of our spaces as much as we can.
The people who host their servers sure can.
Heck yeah!
If you're doing
and like
if you're doing this to people, doesn't even have to be about video games, right? The comments that I'm reading directed at the Ooblets devs, there are threats of rape, there are threats of murder, there are like people asking, do you have kids? You better hope you don't have kids. The vilest shit I have ever, I have seen some of the comments directed at the Ooblets dev are worse than some of the shit I got thrown at me during Iraq. And if you're doing this, if you are a part of this, it's fucking evil. It's evil. To speak nothing of the fact that we're talking about fucking video games. These are people who are literally in fear for their lives over a fucking storefront. With all this shit going on in this country right now, with all the shit going on in the world right now, this is the shit you're angry about? A fucking video game store? Fuck you. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Literally.
And I swear to Christ, if I ever hear this shit in person, fuck. I'm gonna throw fucking hands. I'm not even playing around. I have not been this angry. People just want to fucking live, man. People just want to fucking make a living and make video games to make people happy.
Yeah,
fucking let them.
Decision. It was the best decision they could make for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
and this gave them financial support, and also literally every single one of these people that are complaining are able to play this same game on their same computer.
Also, this game is going to sell very well after all the attention.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm going to support it. I'm going to support it just to support them now.
Yeah. Like, it's going to, not only did they make the Epic money, but they got a lot of attention and people are going to buy this game.
Yeah, I do also want to throw this out there. And this is less for the people in Twitch chat, because I think the people in Twitch chat are mostly on the same page as this. People might listen to this later on, and I think that they might get frustrated with some of the things we've said, not because they're on the very, very, very edge of all this, because they're people who looked at this initially, looked at that blog post, and maybe got rubbed the wrong way by it, and maybe saw that and they're like, yeah, that's kind of rude, like maybe they got irritated. And I think, like, if you didn't actually see, especially after the first blog post, if you didn't actually see like all the death threats and all the shitty, racist things, and all you saw were the Twitter comments who were like, well, this was really not great PR of them. This was not a great move. Like, why would they do this? The Epic Game Store has this, and this wrong with it. If you just saw those parts of it and thought, wow, these guys were in the wrong, and maybe talked about it online, like, I get that. The internet's confusing and information is weird, and the people who are at the core of this, who are at the worst of this, are deliberately trying to obfuscate and make things look like, oh, well, it's about ethics and games journalism, guys. Shit like that. It's about keeping developers ethical or whatever. Like that mask, when it's on, they're good at that shit. They're good at making it look innocent and roping people in. And so I want to be clear that if you were, like, have problems with the Epic Game Store, if you're just a person who just doesn't particularly like it, but has looked at, especially the second blog post by the Ooblets devs, and has said, wow, okay, that's over the top, that's terrible, that's not good, that's not what I signed up for. Like this isn't. I guess what I'm asking is just, like, especially we now know that this Epic Game Store thing, from if you didn't know before, from this Epic Game Store incident, we now know that Epic Game Store, those words, that's a fucking dog whistle. That is going to bring in the hounds. And so just like in the future, when you're looking at this issue, just like think about it and read the things that you're reading, and really think about it in a measured way, and make sure that the things you're engaging with and the people that you're engaging with are really engaging in good faith before you start going in. Because again, you do not want to you don't want to be a person who is just criticizing things normally and be inadvertently providing a safe space for the worst things on the internet.
So I am actually dropping the Medium article there in the Twitch chat for anybody who wants to read it. If, like Reb said, it's fine to be okay with the Epic Game Store. It's not okay. You're allowed to be angry. What's not okay is what you will read right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's the issue we're talking about. Like, and there is a mob connected with the Epic Game Store that is not just talking about the issues with it as a launcher, as a PC storefront. There's a lot of other things going on under the surface, and we want to make sure people are aware and responding to that. If you don't like the Epic Game Store and you listen to our show, we don't want you to think that we hate you.
Whatever.
But we really want to shine a light on this before it happens again.
It's just not okay.
Probably will.
And Justin, eventually somebody's going to get hurt. And that's what I don't want. Like eventually some evil motherfucker is going to do something terrible. And I just, all it is, I consider everything that has been directed at those developers, I consider an incitement to violence. And I don't see how anybody could stand for it. I don't see how any person with an empathetic bone in their body could read that and think that that is possibly okay.
Yeah, I'm real nervous, and I'm real nervous that there are indie dev. Again, it's kind of like what I said with freelancers and marginalized journalists as well. I'm really nervous that because again, independent developers, small studios tend to err more so than AAA gaming. They tend to err on the side of being diverse, and making more diverse games. And I'm worried that there's going to be a lot of creators who are looking at maybe a potential deal with Epic at some point, either now or down the line. And they're looking at this and they're going, is it really worth it? I don't know. I don't know if hold on. I just want to finish this. And it is now on Epic, which is the big company with all the power and the money to step up as much as you can't solve everything. You can't eradicate the evilness in the world, but you can hopefully take some measures to protect your developers too.
Said they have, so
yeah, they did. And we have not seen that kind of concrete what they're doing, but to really take a super hands-on hands-on attack to kind of like manage PR, manage comms, and like make sure that you're helping them moderate Discord communities and just sort of be there to support them and keep them safe. Because I don't want to fucking write the story that a developer got murdered over this. I don't want to fucking write
That's
it.
what I'm afraid of, Reb.
And
That's what I'm afraid of.
also, I mean, just on a lighter note, well, not lighter, it's still a heavy note, but not quite as sad. Like, just like also these indie devs, like the Ooblets devs took this deal because it allowed them to have financial security. There is, and especially a lot of these, these are marginalized creators. These are people that are from diverse backgrounds. They need that financial stability in order to keep creating. I mean, if somebody is afraid of taking an Epic deal that would have given them financial security, and then, have to go back to some day job and, can't make games anymore, that's a net loss for the industry. I actually, the one argument that I had seen about the Epic Game Store stuff that I thought made sense was there were people that were like, hey, I don't have an issue with indie developers taking, Epic money. It's the big AAA games I have issues. This whole situation proved that whole argument was bullshit.
This was by far the biggest blow up of.
I never expected Ooblets to get orders of magnitude more of a reaction than Borderlands 3.
It's fucking wild.
And okay, so here's another scenario I want to throw out there too. I think it definitely, I don't think this is the worst we see. I do think that hopefully everybody is a little more prepared next time to kind of batten down and protect themselves from it. But my other worry is that not only are indie developers going to be affected, but when a AAA or a AA studio with a little more clout and a little more ability to sort of keep things locked down comes out and does something like this, I'm worried that the Twitter mob is going to do the thing it does, where it goes on Twitter and finds somebody who just happens to work for that company, who's like an artist, who happens to be a woman maybe, or a person who isn't white, and they're going to find them and they're going to pile onto them instead, since they can't go after the company as a big wall. That's my other worry, I guess. Though I have seen kind of I know nothing. I've seen the people talking in the news today about how what if Death Stranding ended up being an Epic Games Store PC exclusive.
I saw
I
that.
kind of want it to happen.
I think it might.
Chaos.
I am 100% convinced that when the PC ports of Death Stranding and Red Dead Redemption 2 come out, they are going to be Epic Store only.
Absolutely.
There have been a lot of
will be
PS4
on
console
fire.
exclusives ending up on that Epic Game Store.
I want everything on the Epic Game Store now.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
I almost wonder if Epic and Sony almost have a deal going on, because stuff that was PS3 exclusive and stuff got ported to Epic. And
It's wild to see Heavy Rain on PC.
Yeah.
I just realized
The only
something.
good Quantic Dream game.
I did just realize something looking at that comment from this fascinating username, Vengeful Cheez-It. That's really, really good. Well done. I just realized that the people who are making a big fuss about how the Epic Game Store has no features and therefore it's a shit launcher and using that, as a cover to, harass people, those people are making a really fantastic argument for why the Epic Game Store should not have reviews and not have discussion boards and not have any ability to talk to the developers whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Ugh. This is a time.
Want to move on to the more fun topic?
I do. Are we there? I guess just one last thing. Back to what we said at the very beginning. If you are in a comfortable position, if you are in a position of privilege, if you have the ability to make your spaces in your immediate circle safer and better, to tap the person that you're friends with on the shoulder and say, hey, that thing you said, it was kind of racist. Maybe don't say that. If you're in a position to moderate a community or to even just drop an indie developer that you like a little Twitter reply on the next thing they tweet and say, hey, I love your work. If you're in a position to make your spaces better and brighter and cleaner and fill them with better things, that's the barest minimum that we can do. It doesn't save the world. It doesn't fucking solve racism or anything else. It doesn't get rid of the worst people in the communities, but it does help. It helps everybody have a little more energy to keep going the next day. So just, do that shit. Be good to other people. Where'd Derek go?
That's just good. That's just good life
You said
advice,
he'd be
bro.
right back.
But
He said
where
he'd be
did
right
he
back.
go?
Hopefully he'll want to go get his dogs.
I hope so. He said he'd be RB. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, the last thing that we wanted to do, since this was so heavy, we did want to go around, and we wanted to. I'd love for you guys in the comments to join in too. Tell us just about Derek. Derek, where'd you go?
I had to pop off for a second.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Okay, that's weird.
I had a lot of wine and a lot of water.
Okay. I thought you were gonna come back with a dog or something.
No, I've been sitting here for an hour and a half, guys. I made it a
Well,
long
we're
time.
almost done. I want us to go around and tell us about in a video game or getting video game that made you smile this week at some point. Folks in the comments, tell us. Hold on, I want to tell mine.
Okay.
Since I'm already talking, I bought it's a little $8 game on Steam. I bought A Short Hike last night. I streamed it for like 40 minutes. I think I'll probably end up streaming the whole game, but it's this little game. I need to pull up these names before I start talking about it. I don't have the name of the developer, but it's just this little game where you're this little bird named Claire, a little blue bird, very, very Animal Crossing style kind of bird. And she is on like kind of the base of this mountain at a camp on sort of a vacation, and she needs cell reception, so she has to hike to the top of the mountain. I don't know why there's cell reception up there. But it's just, that's the game. You just hike up a mountain, and there's other little characters who are hiking up the mountain with you. There's little items you can get to make your hike better, but literally the whole game is just walking around in nature with pretty little music and occasionally finding little items and talking to other little Animal Crossing like animals. And everybody is kind of, down to earth, but also like upbeat because they're all, out in nature enjoying themselves. It's the aesthetic is really Animal Crossing. The dialogue is kind of Night in the Woods-ish, but not nearly as dark. Like, it's all very upbeat. And it's just like, I was missing Eastshade because I streamed Eastshade a while back, and that's just a game about walking around an island and painting. And I was missing the vibe of just walking around scenery and enjoying it for what it was, because there's not like, people kind of downplay games like that.
Right, yeah.
But this is very that, and it's really good. It's called A Short Hike. It made me like, I was just smiling and giggling most of the time I was playing it. So I'm gonna finish that. But if you're looking for a short game that's like that, that's a good one. John.
So I just want to give a shout out to Hypecast in chat, who was like, follows all of us on Twitter, but I had no idea that this podcast for several years now. He says we're animated. That's for fucking sure. We are definitely an animated group.
My Twitter bio says exuberant always. That's that's my MO. That's who I am.
So we actually normally do have a nameplate graphic. We just don't have one tonight.
It's not always easy because nameplate, it's hop around, and then I've got to like resize and position everything perfectly like on the fly in the couple minutes before we go live, and it's not easy.
Exactly.
I apologize.
Well, my name's Derek.
Well, yeah, I'm Brandon.
I'm Justin.
Okay,
I'm Reb, I guess.
I really resisted saying my name, Jeff. But
my name is actually Imran Khan. I'm with Game Informer.
Oh no.
Okay.
So
John, do you have
hold
something
on,
that made
hold on.
you smile this week?
Yeah, so y'all know that I love Final. Well, I don't need to tell. I don't need to ask you that. Everybody knows that I love Final
He
Fantasy.
brought Final Fantasy up. We gave.
No,
him
but
We knew
listen,
what happened.
listen, Reb, this is wholesome, and you're gonna love it.
I
So,
will.
my son, who is a young gamer himself at 11 years old, I was walking past, and he had no idea I was there. I was walking past his room the other day, and he was playing Fortnite on a Switch, and he won. He won his match, and without him even realizing I was there, he goes. I hear him go, dun, 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 and I was like, "Fuck yes!"
Oh my
It was so
God.
pure and
your kid is
awesome,
adorable.
and it got me right in the fucking heart. Like, it got me right in the fucking feelings, my feely bit. It was so fucking good. And it just, honestly, that happened on Monday, and it literally made my whole fucking week. My whole fucking week is fucking incredible. That's what made me smile this week. Because I've been playing Fire Emblem, nothing but Fire Emblem, and that game is dour and dark. But that was fucking pure.
So
Anyway, that
I
was mine.
found
Sorry, Justin.
I found
Awkward pause.
So I've been just playing random mobile games when I get time. And, now mobile games whole thing, they kind of move past the whole energy thing and just give you an ad every 30 seconds. Well, I saw an ad for a game I had to download called Idle Human. And this is
this is great. I was enjoying this saga so much.
Idle Human.
This is a game that it's a clicker/idler game where the currency that you gain is cells. And you invest your cells into building up a man.
Oh, what?
From scratch. You build his bones and his muscles and skin. I completed this game in 3 days. Usually these games take months to make any progress. I built him in a few days. And although I will say they are cowards because when you put on his skin, he has boxer shorts as part of his skin. Cowards. But yes, I made a man, and there was an update that said there is going to be a woman added and an alien. So
excellent. The 3 genders.
Yeah. Man, woman, and alien, right there. So I am.
Derek.
I like it's a really shoddily made game. If you follow me on Twitter, I posted screenshots of this dude, and he looks very funny. It's just a bizarre. Oh, it also has weird facts about the body, that appear on screen. It's right-handed people live longer than left-handed people. You forget 90% of your dreams. It's all stuff like that. It's such a weird thing. I think it's supposed to be educational, but it's not. It's just bizarre, and it made me laugh, and I enjoyed it. I'm done. Yeah.
So I actually want to give a quick shout out to Nintendan in Twitter. Actually, so that's actually Dan Koopman from Game Explain.
Heck.
Yeah, Dan, thank you, and thanks, dude. Thanks for stopping by. I've been a fan of y'all's work for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Who's next?
Let's do Brandon.
Okay, me.
Brandon.
Unsurprisingly, it's Final Fantasy 14 because that's the only game I've played in the last 3 months, I think.
Do you like it, Brandon? Do you think it's good, perhaps?
It's pretty decent. It takes 100 hours to get good.
Sounds like World of Warcraft. I'm with you, man.
Okay, so I was leveling a new job, and I pulled a few too many mobs. I got, I was thinking, I forgot that I'm not level 80 or whatever, and so I was almost about to die. And this white mage just comes out of nowhere and casts a healing spell and saves my life. And so after the fight was over, I gave him a wave or whatever about our business. Then a few hours later, I actually found the same person, just in one of the big major cities, and we both recognized each other from and then we waved at each other.
Did you start jumping?
I mean,
that's what you do when you meet. Come on, Brandon, we play
waved.
a fucking MMO.
Waved. But yeah, we recognized each other, both of us, and it was cool. That's all. It made me smile just to be like, hey, I remember. That was the guy who saved my life.
No, I love interactions like that in MMOs.
Yeah, that's what makes it special, yeah.
Where neither of you really want to type, that's effort. But you just you just acknowledge, and there's just this positivity to it. Can everyone else hear me?
I can.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, John, stop. John can't hear any of us.
Oh, no, there we go. No, I'm good. Sorry. I'm good. Okay. I'm all good. It's all good.
He had to open his ear holes.
I did.
Derek, you're last.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a little bit of setup to this. I haven't been able to play a lot of Fire Emblem. And so I got my copy, and my partner, my girlfriend Martha, we've been together for 8 years. This is very, very serious. I only say that because girlfriend sounds like a very small term for what we really are. Anyway. Point is, she has gotten significantly ahead of me in Fire Emblem, and a couple days ago, I was finally able to actually really start the game in earnest. And I'm texting her, you know, she's gone to work. I wake up, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna finally get to play some Fire Emblem today. And the one thing she tells me is make sure you level up your charm and your authority so that you can recruit Dorothea. And I felt called out. I felt just brutally singled out, targeted, identified by my own partner. Like, it's funny because you know, I love Fire Emblem for everything, but anytime there's a romance element in any game, like, a lot of us deeply love to talk about that stuff. I've discussed nothing Fire Emblem with her before this point. She just was like, that's the one, make sure you do this stuff together. I already know. And it was just like,
That's so good.
I couldn't help but laugh, but it was just like, damn. All right, girl. All right.
Can we like just mention out loud that it is a fucking crime against the law that Catherine and Shamir are not bi?
The other thing I was joking about. That's the other thing I was joking about earlier.
Icon, a bicon.
I had like the waifu and husbando list worked out, right? Of like waifu, man, waifu, and then it was like, you know, here's Shamir and Catherine, my two large, powerful mommies, and like we both vented over like, it doesn't even seem like they're romanceable at all, much less, you know, they're not available for bisexual romances, and it just seems dangerous. But I got a good laugh out of us laughing about that and joking about that.
Wait,
on internets.
Claude isn't gay?
Claude is not. No, and Nintendo is wrong about Claude is a power bottom. Let's get that shit clear.
Despite the fact that there is, and I apologize for the spoiler. It is in the first half of the game. There is an animated, what Imran's saying. There's an animated scene that it's a cutscene you get no matter what, whether you're playing male or female, and it's in first person perspective. So you're like Violet, and you're like looking around at shit while everyone's dancing around. At one point, Claude.
Do I get the FF8 dancing scene, but with Claude instead of Renoa?
Hold on, I'm trying to. Where's my webcam? But he holds out his hand, and he leans into this charming little Claude smile and holds out his hand, and he takes you to dance. And if you're a lady, he does this. If you're a man, he does this, and it's like the most fucking thing. Claude's hot. Leave me alone.
Claude
I'm romancing him when I do my golden deer.
I haven't had any romance at all. Like,
you don't until the very end. It doesn't happen, and you have to like get their supports up, but it really doesn't happen until the very end.
Okay, because I went the Black Eagle. I went the Black Eagle route, and I'm kind of wishing I hadn't. I'm kind of wishing. I'm kind of wishing I'd gone with the oh god.
Oh, you mean siding with the fascists didn't turn out?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know they were fascists. Okay. I think for my next playthrough, I'm gonna go.
You got fascists. You got religious
Dimitri's
cops.
House. Dimitri seems like a G.
And then you got the bisexual disasters.
My point, DJ, is that yes, you absolutely should be with me, despite being a dude, because Claude should be gay.
No. When I found out that we gotta
end this podcast.
Honest to God,
it's gone on too long. We have to have a Fire Emblem podcast.
As long as we end it on the agreement that
hey,
Claude is a power bottom, then we're
Claude is a
correct.
Power bottom.
Yeah.
We have a morning show tomorrow where we can discuss these matters.
Claude can throw that ass in a circle.
We can just have Fire Emblem. Wait, Justin didn't play Fire Emblem though.
I haven't played it yet. I'm going to.
Justin's
eventually.
on tomorrow. We're gonna do a Fire Emblem class. We're gonna get like Jeff in on it. Anyone who's played Fire, we're gonna do it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Justin's gonna be on the morning show. We are not going to ruin this for him. Yeah. Speaking of y'all, since we're actually trying to wrap up here, we do have a morning show tomorrow. It's me, Derek, and John, joined by Justin this week, which is fantastic. We're gonna talk about. We haven't discussed this yet, so I'm just gonna say it, and you guys can disagree with me. But we're gonna talk about some lighter-hearted stuff tomorrow.
That's what the fuck I'm talking about.
I don't know. Maybe John will do like some audience questions. Maybe we'll just shoot the shit over coffee.
Can I talk about Final Fantasy tomorrow?
You can talk about whatever the fuck you want, man. I love you so much.
Hell yeah,
John. No matter what our answer to that question would be,
you're just gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it anyway. So
like, none of us can stop you. Yeah, we'll do a Fire Emblem something at some point. Because like Derek's like 15 hours in, John and I are like 50 hours in. We can't ruin this video game for him. But yeah, so we're gonna go. The morning show is at, I need to do time zones. Is it what? 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. Is that all right? Lasts for about an hour. We'll be here for that. And do we have anything else we need to announce? Anything else?
We had some. I just want to do some housekeeping real quick. We had some first time viewers in the chat today, so we really appreciate you joining up. I know I saw Hypecaster. So he's been following us on Twitter for a while. Apparently, this is his first episode, so we appreciate that. And Nintendon says this is his first time tuning in live, and he already likes it, so we appreciate that. And thank you for everybody for tuning in to listen to us tonight. We know that it was a heavy podcast. There was a lot of unfortunate shit we had to talk about, from the ESA to the shootings in Dayton and El Paso, and just the vile harassment being tossed at the Ooblets devs. We like to have a lot of fun on this podcast, but we also can't ignore the really important discussions that need to be had about the industry and the community that we love. It's important, and these are things that need to be talked about. I want to remind everybody that we will be at PAX West this year. Myself and Jeff, who's in the chat, and Derek and Finn and Reb will be there as well.
Yeah. I'm hosting 4 whole ass panels, folks. Come to those.
Reb is fucking just killing it on panels left and right. I said it on Twitter the other day, but I am very proud to announce that I am once again the TakeThis.org Hope Booth coordinator.
Hell yeah.
For PAX. So I will be running the Hope Booth. If you want to stop by the Diversity Lounge and check us out, please feel free, and we will tell you all about breaking the stigma of mental illness in the gaming community. And if you see any one of us wandering around PAX,
come give me the biggest hug that you're comfortable giving.
I personally give. I'm a hugger. If you want to hug, if hugging is your thing,
but I respect your boundaries.
Please introduce yourself before you hug me. Tell me who you are, so I don't think that you're someone who got my spreadsheet off of.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fucking problem, isn't it?
But once you tell me who you are, it's fine.
And I'm telling you what, if you want to grade it, Reb will confirm my hugs are legit.
They're really nice.
My hugs are like I'm a pretty decent hugger. I'm not bad. But if nobody has anything else, Reb, do you want to sign us off tonight?
Yeah, it's not always poetry. We don't always agree, but I think we keep it real is what we do. I don't know. You always say it so nicely.
Words and stuff and
That's
love.
That's good enough for me.